Sometimes Cenk talks a whole heap of sense.
Uh, so, as you know, Joy Behar said that, you can't trust Joe Rogan. He believes in dragons. Oh, well, Joy Behar believed that Joe Biden was young and dynamic, that he had no cognitive difficulties at all, and that he was the best possible candidate for the Democrats. I can't find anything less credible than that.
Why are these people so out of touch? Like, is it purposeful or is it ignorance?
Oh, it's definitely ignorance. And so, Chris, this is really interesting because I am bilingual. I speak both populist and establishment. And that's because I worked at MSNBC as a host. I worked at Current TV. I went to some of the same schools that these folks went to. And so I mainly come from their world, but I'm a natural born populist.
When people are that comfortable, that I guess it's economically settled, they can potentially have no sense of what the people who are still living like they were living prior to joining the elite class, what they are experiencing. And I guess it's the saying where the revolutionaries become eventually I think the word is proletariat. They become the people they originally fought against, and the cycle continues.
And so they've rejected me 2,000 times over before I even got to the right wing, right? And so, but I know how they think, and they're in their own bubble. Everybody's in their own bubble. And so in their bubble, they're right about everything and they're objective, right? And they truly believe that, right? And so anyone who disagrees with them, they think is not objective and is to be dismissed and derided and insulted, etc. And so they have no idea how clueless they are. And they're not coming at it from bad intent, which a lot of people won't believe, right? But they genuinely believe they have the best of intent. And if you just listen to the establishment one more time, boy, then they'll really deliver, right? Right. And if you cheer for them louder, they'll really deliver. And I swear to God, they genuinely believe it.
Are they well read? Because it seems to me, in order to be able to have that level of self-belief, you need to really know what you're talking about. And I'm yet to see much evidence that that's the case.
No, that's the other amazing part. They're actually really well educated, really well read. But since the bubbles are so strong and thick, it's like asking a fish, how's the water? And the fish says, what water? Right?
Something I believe the right have mastered in politics is they utilize and make use of smart and successful people. Anybody who's willing to work with them with good ideas, they will incorporate them, and they know how to delegate and outsource to the right types of skilled, interested parties, you could say. And I picked this up and strengthened this idea, was strengthened when I heard what something Cenk was saying about his conversation with Elon when he reached out to Elon about a money, something to do with saving money, and the Pentagon, the fact that Cenk has run a successfully independent business for quite some time, you'd think he'll know a little something about that. And this is one major failing, I do believe, on the other side, that they just disregard, and anyone who's not in that central club, whether they are of benefit or not, they just seem to disregard the amount of skilled supporters that they potentially have around them, and tend to, I suppose, push them towards the other side where the doors seems to be more open. Very strange phenomenon.
So what they don't understand, this is the crux of what they don't understand, is that the establishment is built to preserve the status of the top 10%. And then most importantly, the top 1%, and then the top 0.1%, right? And since it's built on that, and almost all of the people in the establishment are at a minimum in the top 10%, at least in terms of socioeconomic status, and they grew up, most of them, not all of them, but most of them grew up in that context. When Joe Biden provides about 5 to 10%, or Barack Obama provides 5 to 10% change, they think, oh my God, this is amazing. My life was already great, and these saints have given me 5% extra positive change in their minds, right? Or 10% positive change. How could anyone complain? You guys are nuts. What I'm trying to get them to see is, no, brothers and sisters, but for the rest of the country, 60% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. 5% change ain't going to get it done. They need 50 to 100% change, and you're not getting it.
Thing is, I've even observed a few things and taken some pointers from the creators I see in social media and in the media and how they run their platforms. And I'm open to learning, and I've, taken a few things on board and seen instant improvements. So when a group is that close-minded because of political ideology, even if there is real harm and damage being done by some of the ideas and policies, it's hard to kind of understand the logic or common sense behind it, that way of thinking. I guess it's the human condition. I guess with Cenk, you get an example of a person where he understands how to use the things that some may find annoying about him, or you could. It's similar to Trump in a way, where positives and negatives are all utilized in a efficient and practically rewarding way. So the things some may find annoying about him, you could talk about his aspects of his character, or whatever. He uses those things to his advantage as a tool to not be swayed from his mission, and to make himself less pliable from those who may seek to um, sway him from his path. Not to be mistaken for naivety.
Because you just don't talk to folks like that, and you're not in that context. And when I say that, they think I'm the biggest radical ever. And by the way, now, of course, the new theory is that's it. I've done the pivot, and I'm a right winger, and I've abandoned all my policies, et cetera, et cetera. No, I've been saying the same thing for 20 straight years.
Oh, you're not taking a hard turn to the right?
No, not at all.
And I'm starting to understand politics a little bit more clearly, as in, or from the point of view that it seems when there is a populist movement, when that type of social change takes place, that's where things shift and the tectonic plates can move, and it's a moment in time where some type of change can take place periodically.
So, and here's another thing. I talked about this on Lex's show, and I talk about it in my book, Justice Coming. And whenever we can have an actual conversation, I want people to get this through their heads. I just wrote a piece right before the election for Newsweek about it. There's two political spectrums. There's the left-right spectrum, but there's the one that nobody talks about, the populist versus establishment spectrum. So I am populist left. So you will see me have left-wing positions on many, many issues, the great majority of issues. But I also have a populist position. So that's what discombobulates them. They're like, no, if you're on the left, you have to be pro-establishment. I'm like, no, that doesn't make any sense at all. The left historically was not pro-establishment. You guys turned them that into pro-establishment through all the corporate donations, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why people are confused.
Yeah, that pivot towards defending the people who have the most money, defending the people that have the most power, defending the people who are the most educated, seems to be turning the entire bar stool upside down compared with what traditionally were the values of the left, right? Working class, on class lines, not based on really that much else. Is it salvageable? Is it possible to try and bring this back around?
Yeah, 100%. So look, first of all, Bernie almost won in 2016 and 2020. I mean, he lost by, the skin of his teeth. And that's only after the entire establishment coalesced and ganged up on him. And not just the politicians rallying around Joe Biden in 2020, but all of mainstream media, most importantly, MSNBC. They all said, oh, Bernie's a Nazi. He's going to execute people in Central Park, et cetera, which, who else did they call a Nazi? Oh, right, Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. So anytime anybody's an outsider, now I have massive problems with Donald Trump. And I think that what he did in 2020 was unacceptable and un-American. So we can go back if you want and discuss and debate that. But he is trying to be a populist in his own way. I think it's a little fake. We can again debate and discuss that. But at least he's going in that direction. And Bernie is clearly a populist. And that is why the establishment hates both of them. They barely beat Bernie 2 times. So it won't be Bernie again. He's too old. But next time around, if we have an actual populist in the Democratic primary, we can recapture the party in the way that Trump has captured the Republican Party. And if we don't, we're doomed. That establishment can't win elections. They're too fake. They're too phony. They serve the donor class too much. They're too elite. And nobody's interested in that bullshit.
You asked Elon Musk to put you in charge of cutting the Pentagon. How'd that go?
It's official. I'm now running the entire Pentagon because that's how it works. Yes. No, look, I thought it went great, but the left doesn't think it went great. So let me explain. So Elon says I want to cut $2 trillion from the budget. In reality, there isn't $2 trillion to cut. All discretionary spending is only $1.7 trillion. But there is one place where you could have massive savings, and that's the Pentagon. And that's because they never pass an audit. This is their 7th straight audit that they failed. And they say that they generally can't account for half the money, which is over $400 billion. So I said on X, hey, Elon, put me in charge of the Pentagon. I'll cut $400 billion overnight. And hey, all of a sudden you're 20% of the way home to your goal, right? And he said, give me suggestions. So let's pause there. No Democratic leader has ever asked me for suggestions, even though I run the largest left-wing media network in the country. They've never asked why. Oh, populist. What would a populist know? He doesn't even support the donors. Terrible. We're never going to ask him, right? So Elon asked. Already, that's progress. That's already better than what I was getting from the other side. And so then the left goes, no, don't say that. Okay, but what do you want me to do? Lie? Do you want me to tell you that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden call me every other day? Like, oh, we're really interested in what populist left thinks. Oh, we're super interested in what our base wants. They're not at all interested in what their base wants. They pretty much hate what their base wants. So that's great. And then I gave him a suggestion, which was, hey, listen, if you want to cut in a real way, you'd have to, of course, do it line by line. So if you bring me in, and we both went to Wharton, we both run businesses. His are, of course, much larger. But hey, I run a top 10 media network in the country. So both of us know how we can go line by line and cut things that are actually wasteful, inefficient. And by the way, some of it is just corruption, just massive pork barrel spending. Okay, but for now, I can give you a suggestion of stop having the generals work for defense contractors. Because the minute they retire, they go work for the military industrial complex. And since they're going to get millions of dollars from those guys, what do they do before they retire? They give those same companies billions of dollars, sometimes hundreds of billions of dollars in contracts. That's an obvious, massive conflict of interest that any business person would understand, anyone with common sense would understand. And so then Don Jr. jumped in and he said, that's a good idea. And we're already discussing it. Great. Okay. So
you've got Elon certifying and you've got the son of Trump stepping in as well.
That's right. And then Donald Trump Jr. came back in and said again, hey, this is just common sense and we should be going in that direction. So now if the left wants to complain, if they do it, because they haven't done it yet. If Elon and Trump and et cetera cut the Pentagon or do a great rule about conflict of interest for the generals that the left has wanted for the last 20, 30, 40 years, if they complain, oh, they did the thing we wanted, guys, then I can't help you, right?
Yeah,
if you can't take the win, I can't help you.
there's this sense a lot of the time that purity is more important than victory.
Oh, 100%. And unfortunately, that's one of the defining hallmarks of the modern left that I'm rebelling against. And so and look, I know, so both sides, again, misunderstand each other. And again, I'm bilingual. I used to be a Republican. I'm a progressive populist. I've been in both camps. I understand both camps and I speak both their languages, but they do not speak each other's language. So the left thinks, oh, it's all a trick, right? And there's good, valid reasons for thinking that. Okay. But they think, oh, everyone on the right is a fraud. And that is not true. And they think, okay, if the minute you agree with them, they're not going to actually do that thing. Instead, they're going to use it to cut Medicare, Medicaid, all these other programs that we care about. And they're never going to actually do the thing that they said. Now, maybe that's true. And if that's true, well, okay, then I'll call them out on it. Problem solved, right? It's not like I'm going to go, oh, okay, they promised it, so I will let them cut all the programs that I care about, and I will not say anything. No, man, if anyone hasn't learned yet, I am uncontrollable. Okay, so you're not going to control me from the left or the right, the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. So if they do stuff I don't agree with, I'm going to not only call it out, probably going to yell at them, right? But if they say yes and then they do it, I am going, unlike everyone on the left, I'm going to take the fucking win, right? I don't think that part is complicated at all.
You've been talking a lot about something that I've been fascinated around the last few years, which is the intolerance of dissent from within the left. There's hypersensitivity around that. How frustrating is that to try and navigate?
Yeah, but okay, so that is super frustrating. And there's an extra layer of it for me, but I also want to talk about the right a little bit too in a second. So, on the left, there's the thesis that if you agree with the right, even 1%, they will abuse it. So never agree with them. Okay, yeah, but that's going to lead to very unproductive conversations, right? And then there's also the thesis of if you're not at the most extreme maximalist position, your strategy is wrong. We should always defend the craziest shit our side has ever come up with in human history. I don't agree. I think that's a terrible strategy. And that's how we wound up at defund the police. That's how we wound up with transgender, undocumented immigrants getting free surgery, blah, 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 blah. I told them that is 98% of Americans are not going to be in favor of that. You are just flat out wrong. And so if you tell someone on the left they're wrong, they get so hurt by that. They cannot stomach that. And one thing I'll give the right credit for is that lifestyle is bad. Hey, brothers and sisters, did you mean freedom or do you not mean freedom? If you mean freedom, let anybody do any fucking lifestyle they like. What is it of your business? Right. So, but again, I think these times are different. I think Trump 2.0, and I might be naive and I might be too hopeful, and I grant that to my friends on the left, but I sense an actual right-wing populist movement that might even push back against Trump. So, and I think the first place that pushback is probably going to come is Israel, but we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm a sucker. And maybe you guys will all just say, Daddy, I don't mean you, Chris. I mean, right-wing populists. We'll just go, no, Daddy Trump, whatever Daddy Trump says we want, right? We'll see. We'll find out.
Do you think that you're closer to right-wing populists or left-wing establishment people?
It depends on how you would define it, right? Because if I say right-wing populist, people will then say, well, some right-wing populists believe X, Y, and Z, and those X, Y, and Z positions are awful, and I would never agree to them, right? But if I say left-wing establishment, they believe a whole bunch of positions that I don't agree with, right?
Yeah.
So, and what I want everybody to understand, both on the left and the right, is maybe we are individual human beings and we are not born with an ideology that fits pre-existing buckets. So there's this bucket of left-wing ideology and a bucket of right-wing ideology. And those are all on different issues, foreign policy, domestic policy, spending, social issues, etc. And they say, no, This was said 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 20 years ago. You have to agree with every position on the left or every position on the right. Why? My number one question to Americans is why?
I think Cenk has got a lot of similar traits to Trump, and that's probably why he goes at him so hard in the media and when he's on these panel shows debating. Now, the thing is, sometimes when you've got a lot of close similarities in the way in behaviors and thought processes to somebody, you can sort of when they're kind of mirroring some aspects of your personality, you can kind of take a negative sort of have a negative reaction to them. That's just something I thought I'll put out there. For now, as per usual, be good if you can, be safe, and be creative. You've been listening to Owen Adje here at CornerSpeak. We out.